Are we alone? Is Earth really the only planet with life, or is something else out there?
From strange lights in the sky to unexplained time gaps, the world is full of truly bizarre things. Join me, as in today's video, I'll be diving into some wild stories from people who claim aliens abducted them.
It's been a debate for decades. Are aliens out there, and have they ever made contact with us?
And the unbelievable things they say they saw. 1. Betty and Barney Hill.
September 19, 1961 has the first really dramatic and well-publicized case of alien abduction.
Betty and Barney Hill, a couple from New Hampshire, made headlines in September 1961 with a story that still raises eyebrows. They claimed aliens abducted them during a late-night drive through the White Mountains. It all started when they noticed a strange, bright light following their car. Betty didn't think it was a star, and Barney wasn't taking any chances. He pulled out binoculars and spotted what he described as humanoid figures staring right at him from a hovering craft. Freaked out, they sped off, but that's when things got even weirder. They heard buzzing sounds and somehow lost track of time. When they finally made it home, their watches were dead, Barney's shoes were scuffed up, and Betty's dress was torn. Something strange had definitely gone down. The couple later underwent hypnosis, during which they both recalled being taken aboard a spacecraft and examined by small, gray-skinned beings. They reported this to the US Air Force, and their story got tangled up in the Project Blue Book investigation. 2. Travis Walton. On November 5th, 1975, 22-year-old logger Travis Walton spotted a bright light in the sky while working with his crew in Arizona's Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. Curiosity got the best of Walton, and as he approached, a beam knocked him out cold. His terrified crew bolted, but when they came back, Travis was gone. For 5 long days, Walton was missing, sparking a massive search with 0 results. Then, on November 12th, out of nowhere, he reappeared, completely shaken, calling his family from a payphone in Heber, Arizona. His story? Wild. Walton claimed he was taken aboard a spacecraft and saw beings with large eyes. He even described a bizarre, medical-like examination. 3. The A-70 incident. Gary Wood and Colin Wright were in for a wild ride on August 17th, 1992. It was around 11:30 p.m. when they were cruising down the A-70 near Edinburgh, minding their business, when out of nowhere, a bizarre, black, disc-shaped object hovered above the road. And get this, it wasn't just any UFO, this thing had 2 tiers. As they passed underneath, a blinding white light swallowed their car whole. Suddenly, it was like someone hit the pause button, and both men blacked out. When they finally came to, they realized an hour and a half had passed, though to them, it felt like mere seconds. Shaken, they made it to their friend's house, only to start experiencing headaches, nightmares, and complete confusion. 4. Philip Spencer. On a chilly December 1st, 1987 morning, ex-cop Philip Spencer trotted across Ilkley Moor, Yorkshire, ready to snap some moody moor pictures. Out of nowhere, this pint-sized green figure with noodle-like arms and massive black eyes appeared. Spencer, quick on the draw, snapped a picture of the strange figure before it vanished. As Spencer continued trekking, a dome-shaped UFO lifted off from the moor and zipped into the sky. By the time he reached his father-in-law's village, 2 hours had vanished. Just like that, he had no idea where the time went. The next day, when he developed the photo, there it was, the little green man, all blurry and mysterious. UFO enthusiasts took a look and confirmed it. No fakes here. Determined to uncover the truth, Spencer underwent hypnotic regression. Under hypnosis, He revealed that the green figure had abducted him, taken onto a silver spacecraft, and examined by extraterrestrial beings. They even showed him troubling visions of Earth's future. 5. Whitley Strieber. You won't believe what happened to horror novelist Whitley Strieber on December 26, 1985. While staying in his cabin in upstate New York, Strieber claimed he was abducted by aliens. In the middle of the night, he was jolted awake by a strange noise. And there it was, a small, non-human figure standing at the foot of his bed, its big black eyes staring him down. The next morning, Strieber couldn't remember what had happened. He just woke up feeling disoriented and aggressive. So, he turned to a hypnotherapist named Bud Hopkins to dig up the memories. Under hypnosis, Strieber recounted being taken aboard a spacecraft where these visitors put him through medical exams. The creepiest part, they communicated with him telepathically and showed him images of how they'd been visiting Earth for ages. Strieber later wrote all about it in his 1987 bestseller, Communion. Sure, it terrified him, but it also opened his eyes to the possibility of non-human intelligence. 6. Antonio Villas-Boas. On October 16, 1957, Brazilian farmer Antonio Villas-Boas claimed he had an experience that sounded straight out of a sci-fi movie. While working late on his family's farm, he spotted what he thought was a red star descending from the sky. Turns out, it was an egg-shaped spacecraft landing nearby. Boas tried to run, but small humanoid beings in gray overalls and helmets caught him. They dragged him aboard the ship, stripped him, and smeared him with a strange gel. Then, things got weirder. Boas said they took blood from his chin, leaving scars. But here's the wildest part. A female alien with human-like features, big blue eyes, and red hair entered the scene. According to Boas, they had a sexual encounter, and she pointed to her belly and the sky as if to say she'd have his child. He stuck to his story until his death in 1992, and it remains one of the most famous alien abduction cases ever. 7. The Pascagoula Incident. Here's what happened to Charles Hickson, 42, and Calvin Parker, 19, on the night of October 11, 1973. These two guys were fishing by the Pascagoula River when they heard this weird buzzing sound out of nowhere. They turned around and bam! There was this glowing, egg-shaped thing floating about 30 feet away, shining with a bluish light. Creepy, right? Then it got worse. A door on the thing opened, and 3 bizarre creatures came floating out. These guys were about 5 feet tall, with bullet-shaped heads, wrinkly gray skin, and no necks. And those claw-like hands, yeah, not exactly friendly. Before they knew it, the creatures grabbed Hickson and Parker. Parker even passed out from fear. Next thing they knew, they were in the UFO. Hickson remembered being scanned by some weird eye-like device, while Parker was out cold. After a while, they were dumped back on the riverbank, completely freaked out. 8. Katharina Wilson. Katharina Wilson's story is truly wild. This American woman started documenting her alien abductions back in 1981. And trust me, it's one of the most detailed accounts out there. In her book Alien Jigsaw, she spills everything about being taken by extraterrestrials over the years. It all kicked off in 1981 when she was at home. Suddenly, she was paralyzed and then felt herself floating. Next thing she knew, she was on a spacecraft, face to face with gray-skinned beings with huge eyes. These guys didn't speak. They communicated telepathically. Imagine the mix of fear and curiosity as they performed medical exams she believed were genetic experiments. 9. Allagash abductions. On August 20th, 1976, four friends, Jack and Jim Weiner, Chuck Rack, and Charlie Foltz, were just out enjoying a canoe trip in the Allagash wilderness of Maine. But things got wild when, while fishing on Eagle Lake, they saw a bright object in the sky. This wasn't your usual night out. Oh no. This glowing thing zoomed toward them, and before they knew it, a beam of light swallowed their canoe. Fast forward to 1989. Under hypnosis, all four men recalled chilling details of what happened next. They were taken aboard a spacecraft and came face to face with strange, big-headed beings. These aliens, they weren't just saying hello. They scanned the men's bodies and took samples of skin, blood, and who knows what else. One freaky detail. The men remembered being lined up in front of some round portal that sent them floating back to their canoe like nothing ever happened. The UFO's light kept them steady before it vanished into the night. 10. Frederick Valentich. On October 21st, 1978, 20-year-old Frederick Valentich, an Australian pilot, took off from Moorabbin Airport on what was supposed to be a routine flight to King Island. But at 7:06 p.m., things got weird. Valentich radioed Melbourne Flight Service, saying an unidentified aircraft with 4 bright green lights was following him and flying all over the place. As he spoke with air traffic controller Steve Robe, Valentich grew more frantic, saying the object was hovering above him and adding, "It's not an aircraft." His engine started acting up too, and then the line went dead, replaced by 17 seconds of a strange metallic noise before the signal completely cut off. No one ever found Valentich or his plane despite a massive search. Witnesses reported seeing a green light in the sky that same night, just like Valentich had described. Some believe a UFO snatched him, while skeptics think he might have gotten confused or imagined the whole thing. His family, though, stands by the idea that he was abducted, leaving his mysterious disappearance as one of the most talked about cases to this day. 11. The Manhattan Transfer Abduction. On November 30th, 1989, Linda Napolitano, then 41, claimed she was abducted by aliens right from her Manhattan apartment at 3 a.m. According to her, she was lifted out of her 12th floor window and taken into a UFO hovering outside. Imagine that. Linda's memories of the event were all over the place, but hypnosis helped fill in the blanks. She described the UFO as this huge, oval-shaped thing with rotating lights. Inside, bright lights, sliding doors, and benches. But it gets weirder. She said she was examined by 3 gray-skinned aliens with big heads, and when she tried to scream, one of those beings just calmly put its hand over her mouth. 2 bodyguards of UN Secretary General Javier Pérez de Cuellar were driving across the Brooklyn Bridge and claimed they saw the whole thing. 12. Stan Romanek. Stan Romanek burst onto the scene in the early 2000s with wild claims of alien abduction, quickly stirring up controversy in the UFO world. His first encounter? A UFO sighting in 2000, and things only got crazier from there. Romanek reported multiple alien abductions, saying he was whisked aboard spaceships and subjected to strange medical exams. But here's where it gets even weirder. He claimed he fathered alien-human hybrid children. One of his most infamous stories. 3 gray aliens supposedly knocked on his door before abducting him. He described being taken to an alien medical bay, where he was examined both physically and telepathically. Romanek backed up his bizarre claims with what he called evidence. Videos, photos, mysterious injuries, and even strange objects he believed were implants from the aliens. His experiences weren't exactly fun either. He often felt intense fear and sickness afterward. In one abduction, he described a gray alien hovering over him, leaving him with sinus infections and extreme fatigue. Despite skepticism, Romanek pushed forward, sharing videos of aliens peeking through windows. 13. Melbourne abduction. On August 8, 1993, in the Dandenong Ranges near Belgrave, Victoria, Australia, Kelly Cahill and her husband were driving home when they spotted a massive, glowing, disc-shaped object hovering over the road. Naturally, they pulled over for a better look, and to their surprise, other drivers had done the same. What did they see next? Humanoid figures standing in a field near the craft. These weren't your average aliens. They were tall, had creepy black eyes, with zero expression, and radiated some seriously bad vibes. Suddenly, time slipped away, and the next thing they knew, they were back in their car, feeling lost and confused. They realized they'd lost an entire hour. Over the following days, Kelly started recalling the terrifying details. She even went through hypnosis to fill in the gaps. 14. Terry Lovelace. Terry Lovelace's 1977 alien abduction story, known as the Incident at Devil's Den, is one of the wildest tales out there. Terry, a former U.S. Air Force medic, and his buddy Tobias thought they were just going for a regular camping trip at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. But things took a strange turn when they spotted bright lights moving unnaturally in the sky. Before they knew it, an enormous, triangular-shaped craft was hovering above their campsite. Both men were frozen in place, unable to move, before eventually passing out. When they came to, they had hazy memories of being aboard the ship, where they encountered terrifying, gray aliens. Oh, and it didn't stop there. These guys were put through painful medical examinations like lab rats. After they returned to camp, they were in rough shape. Burns, dehydration, the works. Fast forward a few years, and an X-ray of Lovelace's leg revealed a small, mysterious metal implant. 15. Simon Parkes. Simon Parkes, a British politician and former Whitby Town councillor, claims to have had alien encounters that started in the 1960s when he was a baby. His first experience, a 9-foot-tall, mantid alien with a kite-shaped head, which telepathically introduced itself as his mother. According to Parkes, this creature visited him regularly, and apparently his family had been on the alien's radar for generations. As a kid, Parkes says he was abducted multiple times by the mantid and other aliens, like the Greys. These beings supposedly performed medical exams on him and shared information about their advanced technology. Parkes claims they could even mess with time, but reassured him he'd never be harmed. 16. Charles Moody. Sergeant Charles L. Moody, back on August 13, 1975, was a U.S. Air Force officer out in Alamogordo, New Mexico, watching a meteor shower when, around 1:15 a.m., things got strange. Out of nowhere, a glowing metallic UFO, about 50 feet long and 20 feet wide, started descending toward him. It was only about 300 feet away and hovering just 15-20 feet off the ground, emitting a high-pitched hum. His car stalled. He couldn't move a muscle, completely paralyzed as the object came closer. Next thing he knew, the UFO was shooting back into the sky. The time, 3 a.m. Yep, he lost 90 minutes just like that. Days later, Moody developed a painful rash on his back and started remembering crazy details through hypnosis, like being taken aboard the ship, meeting 5-foot-tall humanoids in tight black suits, and being shown their tech. They even warned him about humanity's potential for nuclear destruction and told him they'd be back in 20 years. Though a few details have changed in his retellings, UFO investigators like Jim Lorenzen took this case seriously. making it one of the most talked about abduction stories from the 70s. 17. Elizabeth Clara. Elizabeth Clara, born in 1910, wasn't your average South African woman. She claimed something out of this world, literally. In 1954, near her farm in Natal, Clara said she made her first contact with a UFO. But that was just the beginning. In 1956, she met Akon, an alien astrophysicist from the planet Meton in the Proxima Centauri system. They didn't just talk science, though. According to Clara, their relationship blossomed into romance. By 1958, Clara said she was aboard Akon's spaceship, traveling to his home planet. On Meton, she lived for several months and gave birth to their child, Ailing. She described the planet as a peaceful utopia, with no cities or money, just harmony with nature and energy drawn from the atmosphere. Clara claimed she had to come back to Earth because Meton's atmosphere was too intense for her heart. Still, Akon and Ailing kept visiting her. In her 1980 book, Beyond the Light Barrier, she detailed her experiences, including warnings about nuclear weapons. Though many were skeptical, Clara's story caught worldwide attention, making her a well-known figure in UFO circles. 18. Peter Curry. Peter Curry's 1992 alien abduction claim is one of the wildest stories out there, and it's packed with details that'll make your jaw drop. Born in Lebanon in 1964, Curry moved to Australia in 1973 and had his first close encounter in 1988. But the real shocker happened on July 23, 1992, in Sydney. Curry said he woke up to find two bizarre, human-like women sitting on his bed. Both were naked, and before he knew it, things got physical. One of them tried to push his head into her chest, leaving him in a total panic. Just as quickly as they appeared, the women vanished. Here's where it gets crazy. Curry found a blonde hair after the encounter. He sent it for DNA testing, making it the first abduction case with real biological evidence. 19. Jesse Long. Jesse Long's story of alien abduction kicked off in 1957 when he was just 5 years old, playing in a field with his brother in Rogersville, Tennessee. That's when things took a wild turn. They came across some strange object, and before Jesse knew it, he was paralyzed and whisked away by aliens. This wasn't a one-time deal either. He claimed it happened multiple times over the years. The plot thickened later when Jesse said he had an alien implant removed from his body. And get this, the materials? Scientists couldn't figure out what they were or where they came from. But that's not all. During one abduction, these aliens supposedly took genetic material from him. According to Jesse, this was used to create hybrid children, and he even claimed to have met some of these kids in later encounters. Sounds unbelievable, right? But Jesse's been sticking to his story all these years, and it's one of the most bizarre cases in the whole alien abduction saga. 20. Betty Andreasson. Betty Andreasson's 1967 encounter is a blockbuster event that's been burning up the UFO gossip circle. Dubbed the Andreasson Affair, this bizarre event took place on January 25, 1967, in South Ashburnham, Massachusetts. Betty was home with her 7 kids and her parents when things got weird. At around 6:35 p.m., the lights flickered and a reddish-orange glow filled the kitchen. Then 5 small, strange creatures just walked right through the door like it was nothing. They had big, pear-shaped heads and eyes that wrapped around their faces, and they spoke directly into Betty's mind. Yeah, telepathically. Her entire family was frozen in place, unable to move. The creatures promised they weren't harmed, but then Betty was whisked away onto a small UFO outside. That UFO, it later connected to a much bigger one, where Betty had some sort of medical exam done on her with weird equipment. But Betty believed these aliens were more like angels. She described visiting a world of light where everything felt peaceful and spiritual. Raymond E. Fowler dug deep into her case, even publishing The Andreasen Affair in 1979, detailing the mind-boggling things she experienced under hypnosis. That's all for today's video, everyone. So, what do you think? Which alien abduction story left you the most shocked? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed hearing these unbelievable accounts, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our future videos.